C5 Insight is a Microsoft partner that plans, builds, and supports solutions in Dynamics 365, Teams, SharePoint, and the Power Platform. Contact us to modernize your business today.
Hello and welcome to another C5 Insight webinar on Copilot for Sales. My name's Haley and I will be your webinar moderator. Over the next 45 to 60 minutes, you will learn how to easily get started with Copilot for Sales to prepare for meetings when you're short on time, perform some R&D, and create content in just a few prompts. Today we have Jordan Loeffler from C5 Insight as your primary speaker and Prachi and Vanessa from Microsoft to chime in during our Q&A at the end of the presentation. During this webinar, you can submit questions by clicking the Q&A icon at the top of your screen, and I will moderate questions at the end with our subject matter experts. And with that, I will pass it along to Jordan.
Hello, thank you, Haley. And welcome back, everybody, to this week's session around Microsoft Copilot for Sales. If you've been in our past couple, this is the third of fourth that we have going on in the series. And today is going to be a little bit of a switch from the past couple of weeks. If you've been through the past couple of weeks of sessions, those have been really focused on individual applications like you might have seen. The first one being all about Copilot and Copilot for Sales being brought into Outlook. From there, we moved that into Teams and all the different ways that you can interact with Copilot and your sales data inside of the Teams app directly. And today we're going to be mixing that up a little bit. We're going to start by taking a look at some of these features and how you can use them to really help with the planning and the R&D process for your day-to-day activities and your weekly planning. And then we're going to jump into a lot of the other Microsoft 365 productivity applications like Word, PowerPoint, and Excel, and highlight Copilot inside of those productivity tools and showcase how using them inside of the broader productivity suite not only enhances that sales process, but combines a lot of the different features that we've been looking at in really cool and creative ways. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump into the first portion of this, starting off with our planning, research, and development, and how we can utilize Copilot along with some of the different tools that we see inside of our everyday communication tools like Teams in order to do exactly what it says here and make sure that we are being as effective when we're planning for our week and our meetings and our sales conversations. So before we get too deep into the features and some of the more content-heavy slides, want to take a couple here just to kind of get our minds in the right place and make sure that we're all on the same page for what we're going to be talking about and the type of work we're going to be framing a lot of these features around. And if you are in the sales space, whether it's a sales leader, maybe a direct-to-consumer seller, you're probably spend a lot of time thinking about your sales cadence, what that means, what's involved in it, how often you're having to revisit some of those different tasks. And we find that there's a few different ways to go about it. And the way we're going to be breaking a lot of that down is looking at things that are both for the weekly benefit. So as you see here, more about the reflection and the planning overall for the week. And we're going to look at a few things that help in the day-to-day preparation, whether that is making sure you're all set for the meetings that you have going on at any given day, keeping up with the communications that you have coming through. And ultimately, you could do all the planning, all the prep work in the world, but unless you're executing in real time, that sales cadence really isn't going to get you anywhere. So then we're going to bring that into some of those content-based features that are going to allow you to take this prep work and make the content and all of the materials you need in real time to make sure you're executing everything at your peak performance levels. And when we go through our sales cadence, us at C5 like to live through this luck motto. So if you've been through any of our sessions before, you've probably heard this directly from at least one of us. If not, we'll go through it a little bit now and maybe can give you a couple tips in order to start working these into your day-to-day thought processes and conversations. But we discovered this idea of being powered by luck. It can really help with creating proactive sellers, not just being reactive to the stuff that we have coming through. When we break that down, it stands for listen, understand, connect, and know. Listen and understanding really being about how I'm doing those with myself, for my business overall, our customers and prospects. How did you do last week? What are we expecting to win this week? A lot there to take in and understand. Connecting, helping plan my week and my meetings, which a lot of this first section is going to be about. And ultimately knowing what you need to know, reflecting on what you've done, so that way you can learn from and bring that into the planning and preparation for our weeks to come. So one way that we are able to do that using Teams and starting to bring in Copilot into that process with our sales cycles and our conversations we're having with all of our prospects and clients is kicking off our week with updates and our weekly planning. So updates is a feature found directly inside of Teams, and although updates itself is not a Copilot feature, we're going to be building on it over these next couple of slides to showcase how combining Copilot with some of the features you might already be familiar with inside of tools like Teams is going to allow you to enhance your reflection and planning, and hopefully bring a lot of these tools into that sales cycles and help them streamline along the way. So like many of our clients, we always kick things off with a checklist, making sure that all of our sellers, myself included, and a couple other people on this call, are able to reflect and do that planning like we were just talking about. We're going to go ahead and kick this off with a little demo around the tracking of meetings after sending and some of the different ways that we can incorporate Copilot from the very beginning of planning for our week, making sure that all of our data is not only going to be accurate, but that we're able to follow up on it in the ways that we need to because of our reflection planning. So let's watch this demo.
The best time to track a meeting is right when I create it and before I send it. But sometimes I forget and I need to track it later after the invitation has already been sent. The process is similar. I open the appointment, select Copilot for Sales, choose to save it, select which record to connect it to, and click Save. But now, when I try to close this activity, Outlook asks if I want to click OK to discard it or cancel. If I cancel, I go back to editing my record, and the only way to save it is to send it. And that's going to send the customer a confusing second invitation to the same meeting. Here's the trick. Click OK to discard. As you can see, the meeting is still tracked, but the second invitation was never sent. And you can still see that when I open the appointment and have a look.
Perfect. So if you were around with some of our last couple sessions, you might have seen how you can go ahead and track your activities like meetings as you're planning them. But you're not always going to have that time as you're planning to track, or maybe you're going through your normal day-to-day activities like sending out meeting invitations and your mind just completely slipped on the idea that you didn't properly track something, which means that is not going to show up properly within your CRM records, which also means that that data being pulled from your CRM records into Copilot isn't going to be accurate, and it isn't going to be the most up-to-date that it can be. So being able to use Copilot for Sales directly in our planning process in Outlook, starting that week, making sure everything from the previous week was tracked properly, even after that meeting might have happened, even after everything's already been sent, is extremely easy to do using Copilot while having these weekly reminders through our updates. Now, when we take that to our next step for how we plan and reflect on the week ahead and the activities and hopeful wins that we had from the week prior, and we've gone through, tracked everything, wanting then to make sure that not only is it tracked, but were those activities completed? Are you going through making sure that everything that you had set as a task for yourself to do is done? So again, you're putting in what you're getting out from Copilot. So making sure that everything is being accurate is going to be super important. So let's go ahead and watch a demo together on how you can use Copilot to make that easier when going through and reviewing your past meetings for potential follow-up.
I'm reviewing my meetings from last week in Dynamics that haven't yet been set to complete. Here I can see a meeting with a prospect. I can't remember exactly what happened in this meeting, so I'm going to ask Copilot for some help. I'll Alt-Tab over to Teams. Then I'll open Copilot for Sales, open the meeting summary, and on recap, I can see notes and follow-up tasks. If I needed more information from Copilot, I could click the link and ask questions about the meeting. But in this case, I'm just going to copy the notes. Back in Dynamics, I can add the note to the record and paste the meeting notes right into it. With the notes available, I also remember I had an action item to send the slide deck for this meeting and my contact information. I can click to send a new email from within Dynamics to take care of that right now. And from here, if I wanted, I could activate Copilot to help me draft the email. One more thing. I always create a follow-up activity for anyone I want to stay in touch with before I close out the open activity. So after I send the email, I create this task to remember to reach out if this prospect doesn't respond back to me. And now I can set the meeting to complete knowing that this prospect remains on my to-do list to stay engaged with.
So as you can see there, we're really starting to see some of these features we've been learning over the past couple of weeks start to kind of fold in on each other and move past just being a bulleted list of features and really start to turn into a full process that you can have, whether it's setting up your week to plan and reflect like we're currently doing, or just working some of these into your day-to-day activities. We've been able to combine some of our past behaviors, like using our CRM to update and track our appointments and our tasks, while using Copilot for Sales to help automate that tracking, pull the summary from our past meetings and interact with that data and get those tasks that were brought up in the call to make sure that we're not missing a beat. All of which is allowing us to, again, stay proactive rather than just being reactive. It's allowing us to be ahead of those tasks, ahead of the communication around them. And now we'll take that one step further with this last demo on this slide, talking about then moving the summary from just our internal task planning into external communication for any additional chatting that needs to go on for that task.
An important contact has asked me to follow up with her after a meeting. We discussed some options for working together, and she wanted to get a summary of those to share with other stakeholders. I've started the email in Outlook, and I choose Copilot for Sales. Then I ask for help drafting an email. Copilot suggests summarizing recent meetings, which I accept and select the meeting. Copilot starts a summary of the meeting as a draft. I accept it and use this as a quick starting point, adding more details and links to other resources available on our SharePoint portal that she can download.
And with that, you can see, especially combined with the other demo we just went through, how easy it is to bring these summaries past the summary stage and into your communications, into your tasks, and hopefully moving the sales cycle along as you're doing that, all thanks to some pretty simple updates and Copilot features that are being brought into all of those day-to-day activities you're probably already doing in some capacity. Now, as we look at the last couple of parts of this that are about that weekly planning and reflection using Copilot along with our Teams features, this is really all about opportunities. And we don't have a video for this one exactly, but as we move into our next slide with some of the more daily prep, we'll cover a lot of this opportunity information as well. But what's really great about seeing this here is it showing that activity, isn't everything at the end of the day. You need to track your leads, your opportunities to hopefully win those at the end of your cycles as the seller, or if you're the leader managing these updates and the different features that are available to your end users. Making sure that these kinds of things are being kept up to date is obviously super important for the healthier business. And Copilot being directly inside of your CRM, like we can see on the panel here, and we'll watch in a video in a moment, makes it that much easier for both ends of that conversation, whether it's the end user or the leader just checking in on the business, to be able to quickly get up to date on their opportunities, whether it's needing to see any estimated close dates, maybe adjusting those if there hasn't been progress, seeing any new activities or task set and opportunities that you need to follow up on in the coming week, or any new leads that you might need to reach out to that just came in over the weekend, maybe just came in from an event you were coming back for. And all of that's possible thanks to Copilot for Sales being directly inside of your CRM, moving tab to tab and page to page along with you. So that way, no matter what context you're in, you're going to have that assistant there helping you with your summaries and insight and additional data to help those conversations. So let's take a look at some of those features that are directly inside of Dynamics 365 Sales and your CRM that we were just discussing. And then we'll talk a little bit about how not only that'll benefit your weekly preparation, but also in the day-to-day as you are getting into the nitty-gritty and making sure that each upcoming meeting you have is well accounted for.
I'm preparing for my meeting with Contoso that's coming up this afternoon. I used to have to navigate to multiple records in CRM to do this. Now, I navigate to the record that the meeting is regarding. In this case, the opportunity with Contoso. When I arrive on the record, Copilot automatically generates a summary of the opportunity for me. I can see the latest changes and a summary of the fields on the opportunity. And I can copy this information with a click if I want to add it to an overall summary. I can also work with Copilot to get ready for my meeting. Copilot has already given me a suggested prompt to prepare me for upcoming appointments. So let's start with that. I'll hover over the meeting I want and click Prepare. And it gives me a nice summary based on information gathered in emails, meetings, and CRM to help me be ready for the meeting. I can dig a little deeper and ask some more questions. Let's get the latest news about Contoso. Here I can see what public news sources have reported about Contoso or whatever account record I'm on recently. I can click these to open them to dive deeper.
Great, so we can see there not only what's listed under the bulleted section for some of that summarized content you're going to see, your record summary overall, whether that is an opportunity, a lead, account, a contact, whatever page you're on, it's going to give you a summary of the context of that page. So that's really helpful to, at a quick glance, be able to get all the information you need about whatever the given topic is. But you're going to see a lot more information being brought in there with additional features and additional sales cards pretty much always being worked on and implemented and brought into these tools. There is a link here to further roadmaps we won't go into in today's session, but will be available in the deck if you ask for the content afterwards. But as you're going through, starting with that weekly preparation with the opportunity planning, you can easily go down your list of opportunities and see any ongoing tasks or follow-up that need to be done, and then switch over to your daily preparation and use these different summarization features and insight features in order to make sure that you are as prepared as possible for any conversations that you're having in that given day. So you can go through and, as you saw, not only get those summaries, but it's going to show you some additional insight and questions you might want to ask. It'll give you the agendas for the meetings. It'll give you news being pulled directly from Bing about that company and the industry that they're in. So not only are you going to be prepared based on your own conversations you've already had with that client, but you're going to come across as that much more informed because you're going to be able to speak to their industry at large and any ongoing news, struggles, or topics that are relevant to people in that field. And for the final step of our daily prep, so when we look over the couple of things we've talked about, we've tracked our meetings and our activity from the previous week and our week we have moving forward. We've used Copilot to help us understand our opportunities, summarize the current sales conversations that we're having, and bringing that into our daily preparation to make sure that in the day-to-day we're able to speak to all of our accounts and clients effectively. So let's take a look at one more daily prep feature that moves that conversation from your CRM, from Dynamics, directly into Teams, where you're likely having a lot of those meetings anyway, to just further prepare you for the conversations that you're going to be having.
Every morning, I like to have a routine of going through all of my scheduled meetings to be sure I'm prepared for each one. Today, I know I have a meeting with Allie Jameson and several of her coworkers from Contoso. I already happen to be here in Teams chat, and I want to be prepared for this meeting. Before I get started, I'm going to make sure that Teams chat will pull in information from the web and from Dynamics 365. So I'll start by learning a bit about Contoso. Notice that this has pulled in information from our own internal company information, as well as information from the web. And I can click on these references to open websites, SharePoint pages, emails, and more to see where the information comes from. Next, let's learn about who will be involved in the meeting. Notice that Copilot has suggested some additional things I may want to ask about. Knowing the benefits of Copilot for Sales could help me be on top of the meeting. So let's see those benefits. Notice again that it's bringing information together from within our company, coming through SharePoint documents, Dynamics, and other resources, and from the web to present this information. Okay, let's ask one more question. At C5 Insight, we have an offering called a Luck 365 plan to help provide support, administration, adoption, and planning. So I'm going to ask Copilot to give me a list of benefits for how this service offering may be helpful to Contoso. Great, I've assembled a lot of information that might help me with this meeting. From here, I can copy these and paste them into Word or OneNote or some other location to make sure I've got all of this information at my fingertips to have the most productive possible meeting.
So as we can see, whether that planning and prep work is being done directly inside of our CRM and Dynamics with Copilot for Sales, or if we've brought that into Copilot inside of Teams, using a combination of Copilot and some of our different plugins that we have, like the web and any custom ones that you might have set up and brought into the tool, we're able to make sure that we are as prepared as possible for anything that might get thrown at us as we move about our different sales cycles and conversations throughout the day. Now, that was the mindset we're in as we're moving forward with a lot of the content features we're going to be looking at. You know, we've spent the time making sure that we are ready to go. We are prepared to tackle all of the needs that we have throughout the week. But once we get into those meetings, once we are having those conversations, we can also use Copilot to make sure that everything we're presenting to our customers, everything that's going to be propped up in those calls, looks uniform, looks professional, and can be done with a Copilot assistant every step of the way. So before we jump into some of the more content creation features, I want to play this one last video. This is coming directly from Microsoft, but just wrapping up a lot of this, this part of the presentation, highlighting the importance of the planning and the research being done into the day-to-day that you have set up. And that overall, as you can see listed here, clear as day, there is a 20% boost that sellers experience when they're using data-driven selling, when they are going into their sales process informed with the data they know being easily accessible and understood. So let's wrap it up with this last demo here, and then we'll jump into some really fun and creative content creation. Great, thank you, Microsoft. Just really, again, driving the importance of making sure that you are planning effectively and that Copilot can help make sure that you're getting there every step of the way. So now let's look at what you were bringing into those meetings that you were planning for. There's a lot of different ways to create content that you need for a customer conversation, a webinar like this, a meeting you have coming up, and a lot of different applications that you could be using Copilot in to create that content. So we have a lot up here on the screen already. Some of them we've already looked at a little bit. The first couple sessions that we've had through this series went a lot into the different Outlook features like drafting and responding to emails, using the coach inside of Outlook to help make sure that you're crafting emails exactly as the audience is intended to see them. We looked at some features inside of Word and Copilot directly when it came to preparing for our meetings, whether that was using the features like we saw today to help summarize, or even using features inside of Word to actually write the agenda of our meetings for us. But we're going to be jumping through the next couple Microsoft 365 productivity applications today, highlighting the different ways that you can use Copilot inside of these tools, not only to bring the sales cycle into those tools, but to really combine some of the more basic M360 or Copilot from Microsoft 365 features into your sales process, whether it's a sales feature or not, to enhance your communication and your presentations along the way. So the first of these tools that we're going to be looking at is going to be Microsoft Word. And we will be building these features up over a couple of different slides here. So we've already played a little bit in this application already, but want to start from scratch and just take a look at how do you interact with Copilot inside of Word, and what does drafting an entire document look like? From here over the next couple of slides, we'll elevate that, look at editing and bringing in some of our different references. But let's start with, the fundamentals of the application here and get a whole document built in just a moment.
Allie Jameson is preparing to attend a manufacturing trade show. She wants to be prepared with a quick elevator pitch to her target market. She opens Microsoft Word and is going to work with Copilot in Word to help her draft her elevator pitch. And Allie gives Copilot plenty of context, such as the title, industry, and company size, so Copilot can create something for this specific scenario. Notice that she can link to other information about our company, so Copilot will know what to work with. This includes web links and internal documents. Allie could edit the ideas Copilot gave her, but she asked Copilot to do the job for her. And Copilot generates content to help Allie be fully prepared.
So super quick, as you can see there, to not only get in there and give it a prompt, but able to reference a document of yours internally. Maybe it's a template, maybe it's an SOW that you've sent before, in order to give Copilot something to go off of, making sure that it's not only going to sound the way you want it to thanks to Copilot, but thanks to the references you're able to bring into it, it's also going to be able to look the way that you need it to look as well. And let's say it doesn't sound the way you want it to, or necessarily look the way you want to after Copilot has generated that first full draft of a document. You then are still the one that is the main pilot instead of the Copilot. So you can go in and have a lot of tools at your disposal using Copilot to edit and enhance that draft that's been given to you. So maybe you are drafting up a new statement of work for a potential prospect, and you needed to go in and change some of the different verbiage in there to be more accurate to the work that you're going to be doing. You can do that yourself, obviously, through your normal editing tools, but you can once again tap on your Copilot to do exactly that. So let's take a look at a couple ways you can do that.
Allie Jamison is creating a sales document for a block of hours for the company Contoso and decides to partner with Copilot to help customize the document. Allie clicks on the first area she would like to customize in the body of the document. The Draft with Copilot icon appears in the left margin. Allie then provides Copilot with all of the details she would want to include in the Statement of Understanding section of the document. Allie reviews Copilot's results and is fairly satisfied. However, she would like the section to be formatted a little better. That's pretty close. Just one more edit, as some of the verbiage isn't quite as professional as Allie desires it to be. Allie is satisfied and chooses the option to keep it.
Struggling to leverage Microsoft Enterprise solutions? At C5 Insight, we understand the intersection between technology, business, and people. Contact us to learn more.
So we won't watch the second video on this slide. It'll be linked again if you do request the slides after. But to walk through some of the additional editing things that you would see in that video, like we just saw, super easy to not only have that whole draft made by Copilot, but then to go in and edit and update even individual sections of it using your Copilot assistant to be exactly the message you want it to be. Whether it's changing the tone and the length with just a couple easy clicks, or giving it some updated prompts to make some larger adjustments to the messaging, maybe changing text into a table like you can see in the snipping here. It makes it very easy to take that document and continue to refine it using your Copilot assistant. So now is the last step of the Word features that we'll look at before we move into PowerPoint and Excel. We're going to combine kind of what we've been talking about here. So we've spent a lot of time, not only in this session, but the past couple, looking at the data in CRM and the ways that our tools interact with it. And now that we have an understanding of how to use Copilot in Word, let's enhance that process and bring that sales process directly into that as well. So let's watch this demo together on how you're able to bring that CRM data directly into the fantastic Copilot features we were just watching in order to be able to create a pre-meeting report with all of the details you need from your CRM records.
My meeting this afternoon with Contoso is an important one. I need to not only have a full summary of the client relationship, but I also need to be sure I'm ready to deliver the best possible pitch for their business. And I want all of this in a meeting document I can share with the team so we're all on the same page, literally. I'll start by going to Microsoft Word on the web and click the Copilot link. and I'm going to ask a question in plain English. Help me prep for the pitch meeting with... Now I want to find the meeting record from my CRM system. I can either click the Reference Your Content button, or I can just hit the slash bar, which I'll do now. I'll select the Sales Meetings option, and then click the meeting I want to prepare for. Now I want to go one step further, so I'm going to add to my conversation with Copilot based on... This time I'll click the Reference Your Content button. I can start typing and all of my content will be searched. I'll select this first document and click Generate. In a few minutes, Copilot has drafted a comprehensive document to help me be fully prepared for the meeting. As the owner of the relationship with Contoso, I can update this document to be sure it's complete and contains accurate information, and then share it to the rest of my selling team.
So really combining a lot of these really cool features we've been able to look at so far, that not only are generative features found in Word, but thanks to Copilot for Sales, you're able to directly pull in that record from your CRM, thanks to your tracking, thanks to your hygiene, thanks to the data you're putting into it to start. And it's going to allow you to then bring that in and really make a more robust presentation and be that much more prepared because of how interconnected all of these are. And like we saw, not only pulling in that CRM record, but doing that while still being able to reference other materials that you have internally, whether it's a document or your SharePoint, wherever it might be, to make sure that, again, it's not only the messaging you want it to be, it's not only referencing the right records, but it's also going to match visually based on the content you're providing it and the templates that you're bringing into the conversation. So now that we were able to see how easily we were able to not only use Copilot in Word, but also bring in that sales process along with it, let's pivot to a different one of our productivity applications, moving from Word to PowerPoint. And you'll start to see that a lot of the themes of the features we're looking at are going to be pretty similar application to application. You're going to have some summaries, you're going to have some generative features, you're going to have some more insight-giving features, but they're always going to slightly adjust based on the context of the application that Copilot is being opened up in. So let's go ahead and see that in action with this demo of creating a PowerPoint document from scratch, referencing a Word document similar to one we just created in the last demo.
Allie has submitted a detailed statement of work on a project to create a Microsoft 365 long-term roadmap. She needs to create a pitch deck summarizing the SOW and present it to a group of decision makers. Rather than starting from scratch, Allie's going to use Copilot to get a jump start. She starts a new PowerPoint and asks Copilot to summarize the proposal that's in a Microsoft Word document. After just a few minutes, Copilot generates a complete PowerPoint deck. Content from the original Word doc is included, such as images, tables, and even references to the original content is included in the notes for each slide. And Copilot has suggested new images based on the text on the original slides. After Allie makes some edits, she may then want to better organize the presentation. This time, she's going to look through the list of suggested prompts, and she chooses the Edit heading in the Organize item. Copilot added section dividers to the presentation, as well as an opening slide to each section. Allie's ready for a final cleanup of this presentation before she delivers it to the client.
So just like we saw in Word, how easy it is not only to prompt, but to reference something in order for that prompt to be more successful, carries over just the same inside of PowerPoint, giving you the ability to take that time away that you would normally spend pouring hours even into just making sure something looks nice, and instead allows you to use that time and energy on your client, on preparing the actual conversation and content that you need in order to land that deal. So as you saw, you can reference, but you could take it one step further, use it to help edit, organize, bring in outside materials. It builds notes out for you and just takes a lot of that busy work that I'm sure anybody that's been in the sales space for quite some time is sick of doing. And thankfully you have an assistant to help with now. But like always, that can be taken a little further as well. So we'll watch one more demo around PowerPoint and some of those more enhanced editing features that are going to come along with using Copilot inside of that space to make sure that your meetings are exactly the way you want them to be as you're going into your customer conversations.
Allie is working on a training presentation to get her team up to speed on using the Copilot capabilities built into Microsoft Teams chat. She starts by selecting a template in PowerPoint so that it will align to Contoso's branding standards. And she's going to ask Copilot to create the presentation for her. After a few moments, an initial draft is completed. She takes a look at some of the custom content that Copilot created just for her. When Allie delivers this presentation, she'd like to start with a quick overview of what generative AI is. She asks Copilot to create that slide for her. Allie's happy with the slide in general, but she clicks the designer link to look at other options for formatting the slide to get the look just right. From here, Allie can make some final edits, and her slides are ready to go.
So super simple and quick there, but just highlighting that editing power that these features really have, that even though Copilot is the one drafting, you are still in control of what that final product ends up being before it ends up in front of a customer. So you have all the power at your disposal to do just that. And like you saw, maybe my favorite part of that is if you already have templates built out that your organization has to use, Copilot works within that. So if you start a brand new presentation inside of a template, Copilot will use those templated slides in order to build out a deck instead of starting from scratch on its own. So allowing it to benefit from all the Copilot features while still living in the rules and restrictions around what your content needs to look like for your organization. So we're going a little over in time. We have a couple here just to look at Excel now, and then we'll move into our Q&A to wrap things up. But some of these are my favorite features that we'll cover today, so I want to make sure we jump into moving Copilot into Excel as well. Again, if you've been in the sales space for a while, Excel is something you probably have quite a bit of experience with, at least in some capacity. Maybe it's how you review your numbers at the end of each quarter. Maybe you just use it to go through lists of leads after coming from events. A lot of different ways that you can be using Excel to manage your data. And Copilot is a fantastic addition to that, helping you sparse that data much quicker and in more digestible ways. So let's watch this video and how it can help with that.
Allie recently attended a trade show where she received a large list of prospects. She is going to use Copilot in Excel to research her data and identify her target list. First, she's going to ask Copilot how many rows of data are in her spreadsheet. Copilot identifies a very large list of prospects. So Allie's going to ask which state appears most frequently in the spreadsheet to help identify her target market. Copilot notes that California is the most frequently occurring state, which is going to be Allie's target. Next, she's going to ask about the percentage distribution of industries in her target market. Copilot provides a breakdown of industries that are appearing in her prospect list within the state of California. Copilot helps Allie identify that major banks are a common industry in her list in California. She asks Copilot to filter her list by state and by industry. Now that Copilot put these filters in place, Allie is ready to continue her research with her targeted list of prospects.
Great. So obviously there had a lot of content to go through. There was over 1,000 rows just in that one chart alone. And with just a couple simple prompts from Copilot, you were able to find the key information you needed, the people tied to that information, and gain some additional insight and different ways to look at that data that you might not have even thought about if you had to scan through those like 1,000 rows all on your own. So not only saving time, but providing valuable insight in the process as well. So for the final feature we'll take a look at today, just like the past couple apps, we're going to push that one step further past summarization and really look at how Copilot being brought into Excel for your sales process can help you measure your success and adjust moving forward to hopefully build more success on top of that.
Allie wants to measure the success of her research and prospecting efforts for the first half of the year. She has exported a list of opportunity data from the past 6 months to analyze in Excel. Allie opens Copilot and asks to show the percent breakdown of won versus lost opportunities. After seeing the results, Allie asks Copilot for more information on industries related to lost opportunities so she can understand where she may need to refocus her efforts. Then, Allie wants further insights on the won opportunities, so she asks for revenue details. Then, Allie asks Copilot for additional insights that it can glean from the opportunity data. When produced, Allie adds those insights into a new tab for further review. Now Allie can continue to ask Copilot for questions and analyze her metrics.
Great. So for that last feature, we saw not only some building on top of the insight and summarization features, but being able to then take that and use it to identify gaps in your business and even automatically create visuals, make pivot tables and charts for you to maybe present that information or just be able to understand the information you're looking at in an easier way. Copilot is able to help with that, streamline a lot of the process that normally you might have to have entire data analysts do to sparse through all that data coming from your sales cycles and provide you with a lot of different ways to look at your business thanks to the tools at hand. So that wraps up the content for today. I will go through these 2 slides quickly to pass back into our Q&A, but just to highlight how much is coming out for these tools on a regular basis. This is what some of the roadmap has looked like over the summer. We've seen a couple of these already starting to show up, as you can see listing earlier throughout the last couple months, but so many as we moved through August and September, with many more to come still as the year continues to close out. So looking forward to what's to come, and hopefully you guys are as well. And you never know, maybe we'll have another series at some point highlighting some of those new features too. But with that, I think I'm going to be passing it to Haley to set up our next steps.
Thanks so much, Jordan. Before we jump into our Q&As, we want to just share a couple opportunities that you have to engage with C5. First, if you're interested in getting a copy of these slides for your kind of viewing at your own pace after today's session, there are hot links to the demos that are included in the PDF download. So go ahead and visit c5in.co/slides, and we will send those over to you. If you'd like to learn more about how we can guide you on that journey to adopting AI and Copilot, then you can send us a message at c5in.co/contact. Finally, we have some sessions that we will be presenting at Community Summit this year, over 10 actually, and then 4 Academy classes. It's the largest Microsoft business applications event, and we're really excited to participate in it. So if you want to get a link to our sessions and learn more, you can go to c5in.co/summit. All right, so now we will go ahead and jump into the last few minutes of our Q&A with our subject matter experts. And if you have questions in the middle of this, you can go ahead and just submit them in the Q&A icon, and I will be sure to ask our experts. Okay, Jordan, so we walked through Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and how all of these features of Copilot can be integrated in these apps to streamline content creation. Can these features work in other Microsoft applications as well?
Absolutely, yes. So A lot of the features we've looked at today and through most of the series are either found in Copilot for Sales or Copilot for Microsoft 365. So most of the Microsoft 365 ones are found in the rest of the suite. So if you spend a lot of time in OneNote, you'll find Copilot there. You'll find Copilot inside of your OneDrive. So a lot of different places within the M365 suite to find it. But then there's also many other kinds of Copilot that you can utilize, Copilot for Service and Dynamics. There's Copilot in GitHub if you need to do coding. So definitely a lot of places you can find these features outside of what we've looked at today too.
Great. The next question I have that I think is super helpful is referencing different documents by Copilot, specifically like we saw in Word. So how do you reference a past document in a Copilot prompt? Can you reference any kind of document? Is there restrictions on the documents that it populates for myself? What would be kind of your direction on using Copilot in that way in some of these productivity apps?
Yeah, I can take that one. I think as Jordan even showed us in the demo, you'll notice the forward slash is the universal way we can reference documents across Copilot prompts. And honestly, one of the best ways to use the files is to reference them by name. And answering your question related to the type of file, you can reference Word documents, PowerPoint documents, as well as PDF files. And with Copilot for Sales, you can even reference Teams meetings. So honestly, the possibilities are endless, and we definitely encourage you all to experiment with prompting.
Nice. If you don't know the name of the document and I'm just referencing maybe a meeting that I had or some like keywords within the document, is it possible to surface it that way, or would I have to know at least some of the title for Copilot to return that document?
I believe you can start the search. You might have seen as we were going through it, the results that are shown are typically limited to 3 different options. So similar to a lot of the features we've looked at when you kind of have that mindset of you're going to get out what you put in, and your hygiene and habits being in place are super important when it comes to getting the most out of these tools. I think that translates into naming conventions the same way as a lot of these other records. So if you aren't naming things in a way that are easy to find and reference, think that's probably where the answer is to correct that habit, and that'll then make it much easier for Copilot to utilize that information. But it does do some limited search in there.
Yeah, I think that's a great call out, actually, just to make sure that the documents that you're looking for have some standard nomenclature. So when you're looking for proposals, you're using a keyword like proposal or something of that nature, so you can pull those things related to whatever the company name is that would be part of that document name. Okay, so one thing that I think would be really helpful for sellers is creating leads from Outlook. So is it possible to create a lead in Outlook using Copilot in the same manner that you can create contacts?
Yes, so you can definitely configure this because even at Microsoft, we, look to create leads instead of contacts from Outlook. So it is possible. Out of the box, it does it with contacts, but you can go in to the admin center and set it up to go through the leads process. The only difference is it doesn't autofill the fields like it would with contacts. So I believe that is something that's on the product roadmap to get that to autofill in the future.
Okay, great. The last question I have is when I save an email in the old Outlook app, like using saved attachments, but I wasn't sure about if Copilot can do this now. Is it on the roadmap for the new Outlook?
Yeah, I would say this is actually a capability that became available in June, and we take our customers' feedback super seriously. So Copilot for Sales is rapidly innovating. Each week there's new features, so this is something that you're able to do today. And I encourage you to go try out this feature. But yes, we will also, keep in mind any feedback you have for the product team. So if you'd like to reach out to Microsoft and C5 Insight directly with that feedback, you can do so.
Great. It's always nice to know that your voice is heard when you're using these kind of technologies and that there's a way to contact Microsoft and say, hey, I think this would be really beneficial to further improve my productivity, my workflows, things like that. And like you said, Copilot's always coming out with new features and capabilities that will further kind of improve sellers' sales process. All right, so with that, we're going to conclude today's webinar, but we want to thank you guys for joining us and hope to see you next week at our next Copilot for Sales webinar. Again, if you would like a copy of the slides from today's session, you can go ahead to c5in.co/slides, and we will go ahead and send you a copy. Thanks so much for joining us.